Thank you all for joining me, and welcome on our whatever it is episode. I hope that Steve will be able to join us later. Actually, I'm just coming back from a tour, an actual tour. I was guiding in Jerusalem for Israelis, and I was so afraid of traffic, which is totally unpredictable in Israel. So I took my laptop with me. So in case of emergency, I was totally planned, to stop at the petrol station, plug in, and do the presentation. But luckily, I made it back home an hour ago, so I'm good to go. I'm sitting in my, normal space. And,
where did you take them? Where did you take them today, Julia?
To Jerusalem. We've been to the Machane Yehuda market and Nachlaot and a little bit of the Old City and the Kotel. And since Steve informed me about the situation with Delana's dad, so I placed a note for him in the Kotel a few hours ago, and
that's nice.
Yeah, I really hope it will help. I texted her. She did not see it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we have 100 participants, and I think this is the right time for us to start. So I will start sharing my screen, okay? I will...
Marcia, can you, or one of you, mute everybody?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so guys, you are supposed to be muted, including you, Marcia. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to do so. Right now, I simply muted you all. And just to remind that you're always welcome to put your notes, wishes, questions, etc. At the chat, and I will refer to it later. And even later than that, you will be able to unmute yourself and talk to me. So the greatest hit of the Israel Museum.
Before you start, Julia, I'll say something that Alana and Steve usually say, because there are 103 people on here. And for those of you who don't know about
Pamela, we don't hear you.
You're
Pamela,
muted.
you are.
That's my fault. I muted.
Okay,
now. Oh, thank you. All right, for those of you who don't know about these tours, these virtual tours of Julia's, she does this every week. There have been over 100 sessions already, and Julia hires people who give talks sometimes, and Julia goes places, and all of this costs money. So we appreciate whatever kind of donations you can make. Julia's information is up on the screen for PayPal. Otherwise, you can, usually Alana puts Steve's address on there. Marcia, if you want sometime during the chat, could you just put your address? So that if people want to send in checks, they can send checks. Whom do the checks usually get made to? To Steve?
To Steve.
Okay, so to Steve, and Marcia will put the information on there, and then Steve deposits the checks, and then all the money goes to Julia so that she can continue to do all of these tours. So we appreciate all of that. Now I will mute myself.
Okay, thank you, Pamela. Yeah, for the important introduction. So here we go. The greatest hits of the Part 1, Archaeology and Judaica Wings. Now, if you've ever been to the Israel Museum, you know how big it is, and walking through the archaeology wing alone will take you hours and hours, and same is true for Judaica. And we are talking about one presentation, so it was very clear to me that it's going to be part 1, and then maybe there will be part 2, 3, 4, etc., because this museum is amazing. And it was really, really difficult for me to pick, the things I would like you to see first. And so after some brainstorming with colleagues, I decided to start from the beginning, meaning, back in history, and then slowly progress. So we will be talking about a few finds which I picked up, and they belong to the prehistoric time and to the first temple period. Later, at some point, I hope to have part whatever, and then we will progress and we will see some things which belong to the Second Temple period and Roman and Byzantine and early Arab and Crusader, and there's so much to see. And this is my personal taste, of course, so I apologize in advance if you will not see what you would expect to see, because you would rather see something else, but these are my picks. So here we start. So just an introduction for those who've never been to Jerusalem. The Israel Museum is located right here, where you can see this red mark of the Google Maps, not far away from Mount Herzl, which is here on the left. Mount Herzl is the location of the military cemetery in Yad Vashem, and not very far from the main entrance to Jerusalem, which is around here, okay, from Motza and into Jerusalem. It's not very far from Machane Yehuda Market, and not very far from the old city as well. So we are right in the center of everything. So as soon as you reach the Israel Museum and you get your tickets, you are entering, and this is the side, this is what you see, okay? I guess some of you have been to the Israel Museum, and you do recognize this main alley leading you towards the different wings. We will be walking straight forward and then upstairs and then into the archaeology wing, which is right next to the Judaica one. Otherwise, if you walk upstairs, right on the right, you walk upstairs and you walk a little bit further, you would reach the Shrine of the Book, this beautiful building with the white dome, which is home for the Dead Sea Scrolls collection. And then immediately past it, this is where the model of Jerusalem of the Second Temple period is located. And this is going to be the topic of our next presentation. So we are walking forward now. Next week, we will take a right, okay? But this is exactly where we will start. And here we are. This is the sculpture which you see right before you enter the archaeology wing. I am not sure why this mostly eaten apple was chosen to be, the landmark to enter the archaeology wing, but whatever, that's what you see. And here we are. This is the archaeology wing. Finally, you can see it behind me as well, just different lighting. This is not one of the exhibits I would like to share with you, but I think you will agree that this is quite impressive. This is actually amazing. Just to say one word, because this is what you see as soon as you reach the archaeology wing. These are coffins. These are coffins which look like people, more or less. You can see the faces here. And since they look a little bit like human beings, so they're known as the anthropoid coffins. They were used by the ancient Egyptians and by the Philistines as well. So we're talking about the 14th century BCE here. Okay, very impressive. But anyhow, we just walk in, and this is the first exhibit. I don't know if you can see Venus here. Okay, you see this person holding a piece of rock in his hand. Okay, do you see it? Hey, Steve, I can see you. Hey, welcome. I can see you and the fish and the corals. Amazing. So I hope now we can see Steve and Marcia. And I hope you can see this little piece of rock, which was found on the shore of Birke is a Greek for the Hebrew word bricha, and bricha is a pool, okay? But the pool of Ram up in the Golan Heights, not far away from the Hermon Mount, all right? So this rock was found right there, the Ram. That's what it looks like, okay, from a different perspective. It's tiny little, as you could see. It's about 250 years old. We know, according to the chemical analysis, it was performed on the soil where it was found. I mean, they did the analysis below and the soil above, and so we know, more or less how old it was. It's a volcanic soil, doesn't matter. This is how old it is. Right? Okay. So if you're not convinced that this is Venus, actually, I'm not convinced. So, all right, now we can, okay, it's the same rock from a different angle, but growing. And now, as you look at it carefully, you can see there is a here. You can see another breast. Can you see what I'm talking about, guys? Pamela, Carrie, yeah? Do you see it? Okay, great. So you can see the two breasts and you can see a little head, okay? And in such a case, well, it is on display at the Israel Museum. And so we are supposed to believe that this is a female, okay? And if indeed it is a female, okay, I'm very careful about it. So if indeed it is whatever, okay, female, so then somebody actually made it. So this is artificial, okay? And if this is artificial, so this is the earliest artificial lady ever found in the world, okay? If this is true, so 250,000 years ago, this is so long ago, we can hardly imagine that people actually worked in order to create a tiny little figurine of a lady. Maybe it was a goddess. If it was a goddess. So this is the first evidence of religion. This is the first evidence of faith ever found in the world, which makes it so special. Now, just to compare, okay, suppose it is a lady, suppose it is a goddess, so obviously we call it Venus. This is a photo of a different, she is known as a Venus as well. This is definitely a woman, okay, no questions asked. This is a lady, which was found in Austria, and this lady is about 30,000 years old, okay? So you can see the difference. And this lady, which is about 30,000 years old, she is among the oldest figurines ever found in the world. Okay, that's the difference in time. So if indeed our Venus from Birke is a Venus, so we started to believe in God, half a joke, but so the land of Israel was the first by far part of the world where people started to believe and create art as well. Now here, this is a boy with deer antlers, and it is a burial site. It is actually a graveyard, a little grave, which was found in the so-called Kafza cave. The Kafza cave is located on the slope of Mount of Precipice, which is which you see on your way to Nazareth, okay, Lower Galilee. We have a cave there with evidences of human existence and human graveyard of 80,000 years old. And when you look at, you can see the skull here. And then you can see the bones, 2 more bones, and you can see the antlers. These are the antlers which belong to this specific type of in Hebrew called Yachmur, which was very abundant around Israel, and then it was extinct. Now we have them in the wild. The Praisework man cave, and this is a piece of an ochre, which is a reddish rock, which can be used to color things. And this natural sediment was used to skull of one of the people who was buried next to the Kafka cave in red color. I said, no, we don't know why. We don't know what they imagined when they did it. But if they had bothered, to place color on a skull of a dead man, they meant something. They believed in something. And if they placed antlers of a deer on the dead body, somebody is unmuted.
Very, very weird.
We have to mute people, and I don't see where do it go. Oh, Helena, we need you.
It's Seth. He's talking on his phone. There. Now it's okay.
Okay, great. Okay. So again, unfortunately we cannot ask these people, and they did not write any notes for us. But 80,000 years ago, somebody bothered to do something about the skull. Somebody bothered to place the antlers of the deer on the dead body of that boy. Maybe, probably, it has to do with faith, with belief in future life. Maybe an incarnation, maybe connection with other creatures. So that's 80,000 years ago. And now we jump forward like a huge jump, and we are at Ketef Hinnom burial site in Jerusalem, which belongs to the 6th century BCE. Okay, now we actually know much more about these people, because this is the Old Testament period. This is the biblical times now. And Ketef Hinnom is located right next to the old railway station in Jerusalem, not far from the old city. What else? The Cinematheque is there. The Scottish church is there. Anyhow, a large burial site of the 6th century BCE. This is the reconstruction which was made in the Israel Museum. So you can see the way the skeletons were found, and some pottery vessels were found next to them. This is what it actually looks in reality. Okay, this wall up here belongs to the Scottish church, and on the left hand side of the photo, which we don't see, this is where the Begin heritage site is. Okay, if it helps anybody. While here on the right, we can see one of the greatest, one of the most famous archaeologists ever worked in Jerusalem, Professor Gabi Barkai. And he was the one who excavated the burial site. Now, as he was excavating, he found some skeletons, and he found some pottery, and he found the burial site itself. That was very interesting. But, okay, now you can see another angle of the same burial site. It sort of looks like beds where the dead bodies were placed. Actually, they even had a sort of a pillow. You see, this is a tourist who visited the site, and he volunteered to show us how the dead person some 2,500 years ago would be placed. Okay, so you can see actually pillows, or specific setting for the head. Anyways, that was quite exciting. But then Professor Gabi Barkai found one of the most amazing finds, maybe some would say the most amazing find, okay, whatever. These are 2 tiny little thin, narrow pieces of silver. Okay. And on these two pieces of silver, which were folded, so they were tiny little, they were placed on a chain. So that was sort of an amulet. Okay. It was sort of, protection probably. They were found on the dead bodies in this burial site. And thanks to the modern technology, it was possible to read what it says on them. And you see, it says, may bless you, YHWH. Okay, this is the transcription of definitely Yud Hey Vav Hey, which is the name of God, which we should not pronounce. May he keep you, make shine, once again his name, his face upon you, and grant you peace. That's what we read on these little pieces of silver. And here on the left, you can see the phrases from the Old Testament, from the book of Numbers. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. It is definitely the same. I mean, this is no coincidence. And this is, of course, part of the priest's blessing, something every father would do to his son. And the priest would bless the people every high holiday. And since there is no doubt that the words on the right are almost identical to the words on the left, so these pieces of silver found in the Ketef Hinnom burial site are the oldest phrases from the Bible ever found. So, you know, we were talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls a few months ago. These famous Dead Sea Scrolls, which are the oldest Bible scrolls ever found. But they are much, much younger. Here we're talking about the oldest phrases, the oldest inscription from the Bible.
What date are they?
This is the 6th century BCE. Okay, this is the time of the more or less the destruction of the first temple. Okay, the oldest ever. And well, this is one of, you know, if you're looking for a proof that the Bible tells you the truth, at least, okay, maybe not 100%, but part of it. So there is a king, one of the greatest kings of the first temple period. His name was Uziya. And we read in the second book of Chronicles that King Uziya had leprosy until the day he died. He lived in a separate house and banned from the temple of the Lord because he was impure. Uziya rested with his ancestors and was buried near them in a cemetery that belonged to the king. For people said he had leprosy, right? Okay. Now we read in the Talmud that the tombs of the kings from King David's dynasty should not be removed ever, even if the city comes close to them. The other tombs can be removed because, as you know, we're not supposed to have tombs in the city. Now, this inscription here, okay, this is the inscription on display in the Israel Museum. You can almost read it because these are the same letters we use today. I mean, this is an inscription in Aramaic, but this is definitely the letters we use today, which means that this inscription belonged to the Second Temple period, rather here where brought the bones. Now, the story of this inscription is really unique because some 90 years ago or so, this gentleman, you may recognize him. This is Professor Sukenik, the Professor Sukenik, the one who bought the first Dead Sea Scrolls. So he was visiting the church. You can see this church, the Russian church, Golden Domes, one of the best known churches in Jerusalem, right on the slope of Mount of Olives. And he was visiting the church because he knew this gentleman on the right. He is a Russian, his name was Antonin Kapustin. He is responsible for purchasing land for the first Russian churches in Jerusalem. Antonin Kapustin was a lover of archaeology, and he made an incredible archaeological collection, which is mostly stored in the Russian church in Jerusalem, but part of it is still stored, and more was stored in this church some 90 years ago. When he came to visit the church, came to see the collection, and among other things, he this inscription about Uziya from the Second Temple period, which means that since Uziya was not buried in the tomb of the rest of the dynasty, exactly as we read in the Bible, so his coffin, his skeleton was removed at some point during the Second Temple period and buried in a different location because the city grew bigger. So we have no idea where he was originally buried. We have no idea where was the second tomb. All we know is that, you know, the Bible told us the truth. And this inscription was part of the collection found in the Russian church. Is maybe the most amazing. Okay, I don't know. I think they're all incredible. So this is one almost identical art found in different places, and all of them tell the same story as we read in the Bible about the invasion of the Assyrian army led by Sanherib. When Jerusalem was besieged, this is when the Siloam Tunnel was made by King Hezekiah. Some of you might remember yourself in the Siloam Tunnel in the water, and Jerusalem was saved by a miracle. And the story of the invasion exists in the Bible, and it exists on this Sennacherib annals, which were written later, as you can see, 691 BCE. And that's what we read. Look, as for the king of Judah, Hezekiah, who had not submitted to my authority, I besieged and captured 46 of his fortified cities, along with many smaller towns, taken in battle with my battering rams. I took as planned 200, 150 people, small and great, male and female. As for Hezekiah, I shut him up like a caged bird in his royal city of Jerusalem. His towns, which I captured, I gave to the kings of Ashdod, Ekron, and Gaza. One of these towns is Lachish. If you remember, we had an amazing presentation made by Sharon and Lehman about the siege of Lachish, and this amazing description made in the palace of Sanherib in Nineveh in Iraq. So, you know, here is the Bible, and here is Sanherib's story, and here we are with Hezekiah and Jerusalem, and you know, yeah, that's amazing. We're talking about 2,700 years ago. And well, this is probably the most famous. This is the so-called the House of David inscription. This inscription here, down here, you know, sort of whitish. You can see the letters Beit David. Okay, we cannot read it no way because this is the first temple period Hebrew, which is totally different from the Hebrew letters we use today ever since the Second Temple. But anyhow, this inscription was found up north in Tel Dan by Professor Abraham Biran. And before this inscription was found mentioning the house of David, the dynasty of David, it was very much questionable. Did David exist? Okay, this is the first ever proof, archaeological, historical, scientific proof to the fact that King David really existed. So here, that's what it looks like. Again, it's on display in the Israel Museum. This is what it looks like when you copy it. And here on the right, you can see the president of Israel, not the current one, the previous one, Ruby Rivlin. Here on the left, talking to the Pope, Franciscus I. They met some 6 years ago. And the present Ruby Rivlin brought to the Pope was a replica inscription with the House of David on it, because as you know, Christians believe that Jesus is a descendant of King David, and the Messiah must be a descendant of King David, of David. So, you know, this inscription is as meaningful to Pope as it is meaningful to Jewish history and identity, I would say. This was a very, very brief visit to the archaeological wing. There is so much more to it, but we will be back. Actually, now when Steve joined us, I will announce that we just decided that since COVID is still here and tourists still cannot come in reality, so we will continue bringing you like Zoom, bring you to Israel. So we will have season 3. And I'm sure that at least one presentation will be dedicated to the Israel Museum. So we will be back to the archaeology wing. And right now we are entering the Judaica wing. I think it's a beautiful entrance. You see, the first exhibit here is dedicated to the life cycle, Leida, Chatuna, Mavet, birth, marriage, and death. So this is something which, you know, every Jew is supposed to get married. It does not necessarily happen, but that's the idea. So as you walk through the exhibit, you start with birth and marriage and then death. So just a few artifacts. One of them is here, Tzedek v'Shalom, Justice and Peace Synagogue, from Suriname. Now, I have to admit that before I first made it to the Judaica wing, I was not aware of the existence of a place called Suriname. So since I'm not sure you all know where it is, so I placed the globe here. Okay, this is South America, and Suriname is a tiny little state which is located exactly where the red dot is. Okay, so that's northeast spot of South America. All right, so even here we have a Jewish community. We still have a tiny little, there are 200 Jews or so living in Suriname today. A few hundred years ago, there were much more Jews. Most of them were Sephardic Jews who moved to South America after the Spanish exile, Spanish and exile, and then they were supported by some Ashkenazi communities as well. This is what the Suriname synagogue looks like. I mean, it was built exactly according to the original synagogue, which used to be in the capital of Suriname. And what I love about this synagogue, I mean, it is a beautiful synagogue. You can see that how bright it is and how clean it is. And I mean, it is just beautiful. I know. But what is great, I think, if you look at the floor, okay, it's a bit difficult to see on Zoom, but I hope you will be able to see it. When you look at the floor, so there is one part which has a wooden floor on it, okay? And this is the wooden floor floor which was placed here, so we will be able to walk into the synagogue. But the original floor is this white stuff on the right-hand side of the wooden floor, and then closer to the Holy Ark. Can you see this white stuff here? Okay, it looks like sand if you look at it closer, and that's because it is sand. Suriname, as we saw before, is located right on the coast, right on the Atlantic Ocean, and they just saw no reason why should we put floor when we have such nice and soft and white sand. And so the synagogues in Suriname have sand floor, which I think is great. I mean, it's like a playground, you can just enjoy the sand. And then you just walk barefoot to the beach and then back barefoot to the synagogue. And it's all good. What they used to have, and this is typical not just to synagogues in Suriname, but generally speaking, Portuguese synagogues, there is sort of a board here. Okay, you can see the H and S and D. And these are the days of the count of the Omer. It's like we celebrate Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer count, which starts at Passover and ends at Shavuot. So H is Homer. Okay, that's the Omer. That's the Hebrew word. And then S for weeks, and then D for Dios. So we are at such and such week of the Omer, such and such day of the Omer. Okay, that's I think that's funny that every Portuguese synagogue would have such a board counting the weeks and the days. And the very fact that there are synagogues in Suriname, that's surprising. This is another look of the Holy Ark. Okay, you can see the 10 Commandments up here, and it looks like a real, regular cupboard, but this is actually the Holy Ark. This is the Nuremberg Machzor. When we usually hear the word Nuremberg, so we think of the Nazis, we think of the Nazi laws regarding the Jews, and then the trial of the Nazis after the war. But there is something totally different, which also is called Nuremberg, and this is the Machzor. This is the prayer book, which was written back in 1331. And this is the oldest, the earliest full Machzor we know of. It's called Nuremberg because it was placed in the life of Nuremberg for hundreds of years. And then it was purchased by a collector, and then it was placed in the Israel Museum. It has over 1 pages, and it weighs more than 57 pounds. This is very heavy book. I mean, it's nothing you're supposed to walk around. You're supposed to place it in the synagogue, and then whoever would like it will walk to it, touch it carefully. I mean, this is amazing. This is 700 years old Machzor, identical to the Ashkenaz Machzor we have today, and just gorgeous. Just a few pages of it. Beautiful illustrated, beautiful golden colors, blue colors. Another amazing book. This is Haggadah, okay, Passover Haggadah from Prague. If you read it, very, very easy to identify that this is the Haggadah because they open it on with the four sons, Hagasha, Ve'atam, Shemo Yodea Lishor. And this is the first illustrated Haggadah ever printed. Some 100 years old, printed in Prague, again, identical to the one we use today. This is, once again, we're talking about holidays here. This is the Seder plate, okay? You can see it says, okay, and Pesach and Matzah, okay, assuming you can, even if you don't, so that's obvious that this is a Passover plate. This is the only known, okay, always careful because tomorrow somebody will find something new, but as far as we know, this is the one and the only Seder plate which survived the exile, the expulsion from Spain. So, you know, a Jew, a Jewish family celebrating Passover in Spain in the mid-16th century. And then, you know, they were given the choice back in 1492 whether they prefer to leave Spain or become Christians, family, and it made to the hands of the collector. This is the Seder Spain before the Jewish exile in Spain, and same is true for this Hanukkah. Okay, a very small, very simple-looking Hanukkah from before they were forced to leave Spain, which happened to be exactly the same year when Columbus found America. And there are quite a few of the Jews who choose to leave Portugal, move to America, South America, North America, and eventually to United States. This is a modern Hanukkah, which has a beautiful story, which we have a short video here, so let's watch the video. The book is in Hebrew, of course, so I will mute it. I hope this time I will mute it properly, and then I will tell you the story. But this Hanukkah was made in Morocco from a tin can by a Jewish gentleman, Meir Ben Ami. And well, let's watch.
ברוכות וברוכים הבאים לאגף לאמנות ותרבות יהודית במוזיאון ישראל בירושלים. מאחורינו. אוסף מנורות החנוכה המגוון, שכולל יותר מ-1000...
Okay, so in such I will not mute her. Okay, I will tell you what you're seeing. Then we'll watch the video because I think it's worth it. It's just 2 minutes or so. Story goes like that. Meir Ben Ami made a Hanukkah. He made as a hobby. He was a tinsmith. And when free time, so he would make Hanukkahs out of pieces of tin, and he will give it as gifts to young couples. So one of these made of tin cans made it to the Israel Museum, and nobody came from and who made it and how, but one of the curators of the Israel Museum to see the Hanukkah, and he was so excited that even though he knew nothing about it, he decided to purchase the Hanukkah. So we are now this part of the Judaica wing where the Hanukkahs are stored. You can see that we are talking hundreds and hundreds of artifacts. Some of them clay, some of them made of metal, and this particular one is of a tin can. So this is Meir Ben Ami, the tinsmith working in Morocco and making Hanukkahs as a hobby. This is the Hanukkah we can see now in the museum. It is made of tin cans, which used to have sardines inside in pieces, and then some glass fabric was added to it, and this is the result. So anyhow, to the museum, nobody knew anything about it, but the museum was excited, and the Israeli Post was excited, and they made a stamp. They made a stamp of this Hanukkah. And after the stamp was issued, now you can see the stamp. The granddaughter of Meir Ben Ami, who knew the Hanukkah, knew the story, she contacted the museum and said, "Has my granddad's Hanukkah?" And then the granddad, you can see him here, was invited into the museum, and this is where he met his Hanukkah after over 40 years. So they were reunited. I guess both were happy. And this is a really beautiful, simple Hanukkah on display there. Okay, this is something again, like before I first made it here, I had no idea that it exists. I don't know if you knew about it, but oh yeah, it does exist. These are and what you're supposed to do is actually hurt yourself during Yom Kippur. I guess none of you actually do it. It's nothing we, at least in Ashkenazi communities, we don't do that. That came from Kurdistan. Obviously, it was from the Muslim Shiite tradition. And these are the inscriptions on them. And what Jews in Kurdistan would do in the 19th century is actually hit themselves and make themselves bleed, because we pray, we ask for forgiveness, we fast, so we will suffer, and God will forbid us. But Jews in Kurdistan did exactly what the Muslims do, and that's actually physically hurt themselves. I went for a photo which is a bit difficult to watch. It's a photo of a Muslim Shiite holiday called Shura, and this is when they actually hurt themselves. They make themselves bleed because they did not save Hussein ibn Ali. Okay, it's a Muslim holiday, but the Jews in Kurdistan adopted the same tradition. So if you don't want to see this photo, which is a bit hard to watch, just close your eyes a second. If you are curious about a Muslim tradition, so okay, that's what it looks like. Okay, every year they would actually hit themselves. They would bleed feet in order to punish themselves. And again, Jews in Kurdistan adopted the idea. Okay, you can open your eyes if you feel. This is something totally different. This is an amulet. This is a talisman for the mother, which just delivered. Now, we read in the Bible about Adam and Eve, the first human beings, the ancestors of the entire humanity. But there are some traditions which are not in the Bible, but they used to exist all over the Mediterranean. And this traditions, this myth, we're talking about a woman who was there before Eve. It's called Lilith. In the Akkadic mythology, Sumeric mythology, and she exists all over, and she is mentioned in Jewish scriptures as well, not in the Bible. Actually, Lilith is the name of a bird which is similar to an owl. So in Hebrew, Lilith is a little. Anyways, these traditions talking about Lilith believe that she can protect, but she also can harm. She can also kill, and she's especially dangerous for newborn babies. So what you need to do when you have a newborn and when you have a mother who just delivered, she's very, very vulnerable. You want to put an amulet on her with of Lilith and with the name of God. You see here, Uziya. I hope you can see it on the right. And you also have her image, and you also write the names of Adam and Eve. These are the ones who are good for us, and Abraham and Sarah, and Isaac and Rivka, and Yaakov and El. And these are supposed to protect the mother. And I think this is very interesting to see how mythology affects our daily life. You know, delivery is daily life, and it's not in the Bible, but somehow people believed in it so badly that they would put the amulet with the name of God and sometimes they will add some names of protecting angels, which again, they're not in the Bible, but the tradition was very, very strong. So that's it. Thank you all for joining me again. And there is so much more to it, but I hope you enjoyed with this.
Gesundheit.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia. I'm sorry for being delayed getting here, but I appreciate my wife kicking us off today.
Yeah, well, I you were in the traffic jam, and I already told people that that I told them and back with my laptop in case I will be stuck in the traffic.
Okay. I'm glad you announced that we are going to proceed with season 3. It will start on January 3rd, I believe. It will run until the end of March, and then we'll see where we are. I did have a couple of VFI announcements to make. The first one is, of course, that the group that was going to start on December 12th has been postponed to a future date yet to be announced. However, we are proceeding to advertise and promote the VFI Plus Archaeology program, which starts on March 27th and runs for 2 weeks, and also the VFI Plus Advanced program, which starts in April, and that runs for 17 days. So those programs, we're going to publish the syllabus for those programs in detail, which Julia and I have been working on. And so you'll see what kind of things we'll be doing every single day for those days: touring, volunteering at archaeological site, volunteering at the military sites. All very exciting, and nobody relaxes for 2 weeks. If you want to relax, go to the beach. Don't go to Israel. So thank you very much for giving us, I think today is the 121st lecture. Julia, that is an amazing number, 121 episodes. You know, when some of the major TV shows it were played, like Laverne and Shirley, I don't know if you ever heard of them, but the Americans would. Laverne and Shirley ran for years, and they only did about 140 episodes, and here we are right behind them. So, right. We hope that Ilana's family issues work out, and we feel for her problems and that she's facing, and we'll keep informed as we learn more.
Julia,
Yeah,
Carol and I have been to the Israel Museum many times, and I personally find it very confusing because there's so much there. So your presentation was excellent because you allowed us to focus on certain things. Really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yeah, more is coming. Thank you.
There are some questions, Julia.
Yeah, I can see those. So yeah, let's start. All right. So the first question I see by David: how did the archaeologists get approval to disrupt burial sites? Okay, this is a sensitive. This is a good question because, as you know, the Jewish tradition and the present day Israeli Orthodox, they will do whatever they can to prevent touching, moving, removing, whatever, violating Jewish burial sites. In the same time, the Israeli Antiquities Authority wants to dig, excavate, learn, understand, and there is a constant confrontation, and therefore the archaeologists would not make public the information about found skeletons. So to prevent the Orthodox from preventing them, doing their job. So these sites are really almost secret, and if you're not working there, you will not know what was found until much later, after everything is done. And when you dig in Israel, so you are specifically told that, hey, if you find any human bones, don't you dare telling anybody. So same was true for this burial site. Okay, Harry, there is a long question which I'm not sure I understand. It says, from the skeletons found, do they know about how old they were when they died? Are you talking about the skeletons of the prehistoric cave, or the skeletons at Ketef Hinnom? Harry, if you're still there. So, hey. Both. Okay. So yes, the skeletons in the prehistoric cave. The boy with the antlers is believed to be around 14, like a teenager. There are some 20-something skeletons. Most of them are young, between 20 to 30 years old. And the skeleton at Ketef Hinnom, most of them belong to adults. I'm not sure this, but yes, I mean, if you're specifically interested in that, you can find the information. I'm not sure, but I know that we are talking about adults. Actually, one of the most amazing skeletons found in Ketef Hinnom is a skeleton with a metal tip of a spear. I mean, it's obvious that he was killed by this spear, and this specific tip is a very special, a very unique type of it. And we know that only the elite forces, the elite Babylonian forces, would use this type of tip, and around the 6th century BC. So probably this was a fighter, fighter who protected Jerusalem, protected the temple from the Babylonian invasion, and he was killed, and then later, a survivor buried him there. So it's another like piece of historical evidence to the destruction of from the bones and teeth. Did they find any disease that they suffered from? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if this analysis was performed. I don't know. What was their height? Less our height. I mean, we tend to think that, back then people were shorter. It's not necessarily true. Surprisingly, it's not necessarily true. We may say that, for instance, the Crusaders, which are much closer to our time, the average of the Crusaders was smaller than an average height today. It's not necessarily for the biblical times, which is surprising. Okay, Phyllis, I believe that the siege of Jerusalem is usually dated to 701. Yes, exactly. It is dated to 701, and so the inscription made by Sanherib was written later, not at the times of the siege, but about 10 years later. Exactly. That's what I said.
Julia, just to interrupt for a second. We were talking a few moments ago about finding bones on archaeological sites. Carol and Barry have an interesting story that has something to do with bananas. Maybe you can tell the story.
Okay, we were at Megiddo. I was at Megiddo, and I'm digging in a wall, and I saw something I hadn't seen before. I started to dig a little carefully. Turns out it was legs, a couple of legs lying horizontally in the wall. And as soon as I mentioned it to somebody, there was a whole bunch of electricity, and the archaeologist came over and took over from there and said, don't tell anybody what you found. If anybody knows what happened, just say you found bananas. And that became a code word for anything human that you find.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So so you agree. I mean, I told you the truth. Okay, Alvin said that Suriname was a Dutch colony. That's true. It was a Dutch colony, and the Dutch, their attitude towards Jews was much better because the Dutch was Protestant Christians versus Spanish and Portuguese, who were Catholics. Okay, without diving too deep into the differences between the Christian denominations, but the Catholics were much more strongly against the Jews rather than the Protestants, and so the Dutch community, a Dutch colony, was the best place for the Jews from Spain and Portugal to move. And that's exactly why we had a relatively large Jewish community in Suriname. The synagogue in St. Thomas had a St. Floor, and the synagogue in Curacao. Wow, that's great. I didn't know that. Thanks. Okay. Sand and synagogue signified multiply like the brands of sand, muffle the sound from the years of the Inquisition. Wow. Okay. Okay. Whatever, Harry, whatever you say, I was not aware of this information. Great. David, you were in Curacao. I've never been to Curacao. Okay, wipes. Gail wrote, hey Gail, used to volunteer as a street actor at a local Renaissance fair. Okay. Yeah, where the Christians in the Middle Ages did this. Right, okay, but Muslims still do it today. Okay, all right, I don't think, Steve, what is your zip code? Gail, thank you for the question. What is your zip code?
We put it on.
I did put it on, but but it is 19073.
Yeah, I see Pamela. Yeah, you already placed. All right, that's it. We ran out of questions.
All right.
If anybody would like to unmute yourself and add anything, you're welcome. And I'm glad it was really, really difficult to pick so few artifacts out of the incredible amount.
Julia, did you mention about next week?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Informally, sort of. So next week, we will be back to the museum, but this time I would like us to explore the model of Jerusalem of the Second Temple period, which is an amazing model. I mean, this is the best way for you to understand what Jerusalem looked like just the day before the destruction of the Second Temple.
Gigantic model.
And we will be looking at the different parts of the model, the different structures at the model, and at the same time, we will be looking at them in reality today. So for instance, as we look at the Antonia Fortress at the we will see the Muslim school for boys, which is there today, and the first station of the Via Croza. And we will look at the school and other parts. So, so I think that will add to our understanding of ancient Jerusalem and modern Jerusalem at the same time.
Great.
That's what we're going to do next.
I just had a technical thought. I've noticed that we had a lot of sound getting louder and softer, and a fair number of frozen screens. I'm wondering if, well, the internet has been kind of wacky because the Google company lost the internet a couple of days ago, and since then things have reverberated. But I'm just wondering, maybe next week we'll try an experiment. Maybe have everybody put themselves on video off, which means that the bandwidth occupied by the picture would not be a problem, and maybe that'll make us have better quality of sound. Just an idea.
Yeah, I've had other groups
So
do
what
that.
I didn't understand. So
Or we
what-
could try the sound before that. That would be a good, try the sound before, and then if it doesn't work, go to non-video.
But what I did not understand, what can I do about it? I mean, if there is a problem with the sounds, so how can we solve the problem?
Well,
That's one of the ways that he was suggesting, Julia, that we solve the problem is that everybody takes their picture off, their video off while you are speaking, and that might help with the bandwidth.
Yeah, it's not a Julia problem that you can solve. It's the bandwidth of the 6,000 miles that we're traveling between each other, and that's a little bit of an obstacle.
Hey, Gail, good to see you. Hey, Valerie.
Hi, how are you? I was at the dentist.
Valerie.
Okay.
I missed your lecture. I was at the dentist.
Well, you had a good time.
Oh yeah, it was great. My favorite thing to do.
Well, if we're finished with the formal part of our meeting, why don't we just move into the schmooze? In which case our rules are, well, we don't really have any rules. You're free to talk about anything for as long as you like. I do call it off at 9 o'clock at night just because I want to go take a nap, but we're free to stay on as long as we like. And
don't forget to stop the recording.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neroli from Israel.
Thank you, Julia.
Good night, all. Good day.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Lila told Julia.
Julia.